Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Justin Lake. Justin is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Skyllful, formerly Venado Technologies, a provider of digital adoption platform that helps frontline workers in the field use of enterprise mobile apps more efficiently and effectively. With over 25 years of experience in the mobile industry, he is a vocal advocate about the need for training and education as keys to maximizing mobile technology adoption, proficiency, and productivity by the mobile workforce. Before Skyllful, Justin served in sales and business development roles at GTE, now Verizon, AT&T Wireless, Technologies and Stratix Corporation. Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, Justin Lake.
Thank you for having me.
Well, first of all, Justin, why do you do what you do?
There are three things that really get me excited, and that is building or fixing things and technology. I've always been an enthusiast around all things technology. I was an early adopter of computers, and that personal interest continues, to this day. And then the last thing is I really love to network with people and find people that have different skills and capabilities and experiences. And so the things that I do today for my work, I would probably be doing the same things even if I didn't need to work. Really combine all of those things together where I get to build and fix things. We get to leverage technology in order to do that. And we're leveraging the resources of a variety of people that have a multitude of skills. And so that's really why I do what I do. I look forward to solving those types of problems. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but I really do like to solve problems through the use of technology and do it with a bunch of people. Fortunately, most of whom are far smarter than me on the technology front. But my job is really to kind of pull all those people together to look for the common things that we can be doing better. And so that's why I do this.
And before we started recording, you mentioned about your passion for helping the frontline workers and about educating them. Talk a little bit about your experiences with that and what you are doing at Skyllful now to adapt to that.
I've had the good fortune of working around mobile technology for most of my career, so for over 2 decades. And so we have really had a lot of exposure to what we today refer to as essential workers. In a post-COVID environment, we've recognized that a lot of these workers that we've been serving are really essential in the global economy. And those are the workers that I've been fortunate enough to serve for a long time. So these are the men and women that are delivering products to our stores, that are serving, providing different services, everything from repairing an elevator to how your HVAC is repaired in your home or in your office building. These folks like me have put together more and more technology for those frontline workers over the last 2 decades. But what hasn't happened is there hasn't really been any modernization of how those folks are trained. So what used to be applications for convenience, we would give these frontline workers new applications and tell them that if it was a little bit easier for them, they could use this application. But if they wanted to revert back to their old paper process, they could do that. Well, those days are gone. These are now essential applications for these essential workers, and there are no workarounds. They must use these technology solutions in order to do their job. So we've created an increasing burden on them over time to have to adopt to more and more technology solutions. But the way most large companies around the world are training those frontline workers hasn't really changed in the last 2 decades. And so we saw this becoming a problem with the more customers that we spoke with, the more we asked about how they were handling engagement with these digital tools that they were investing millions of dollars. We heard more and more often that they were struggling with adoption. They would put the technology tools out there, but they weren't actually getting the return on investment that they expected because everybody in the field wasn't using them consistently correctly. And so that became the next problem for us to direct our energy at. And so when you think about the things we like to do, we like to solve problems, we like to use technology to do it, we like to bring together a diverse background of people to solve those problems. We put those three things together, and that's really what Skyllful is all about. We are giving the large companies of the world with a large frontline workforce a new set of tools to enable their trainers and their IT deployment teams to give them better capabilities, to give them superpowers to be able to train more people faster, more consistently, and without having to put people on planes to provide remote training and without having to pull a lot of people together into a conference room. Both of those things were valuable in a pre-COVID environment, but now, in the current state that we're in, not having to send trainers into the field and not having to amass a large group of people into a single room in order to deliver training, those are must-haves now, and our platform happens to provide some value in those areas.
So let's talk a little bit about that. I gather from what you're saying that what you mean is the education is taking place on the device itself that they're supposed to use. Is that correct?
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's one of the big differences that we've noticed from a lot of the traditional tools. If you think about the frontline workers, they are handed, unlike many of us who might have a Mac or a Windows PC, for many of the frontline workforces, their primary computing device is a mobile computer. It could be an iPad or an iPhone, or it could be a rugged mobile computer with an integrated barcode scanner. That is their primary digital device that they use in their job. And yet, in order to train them on that, we often bring them into a classroom and we provide classroom training with an instructor on a PowerPoint. And then we hope that that information that they've learned in a classroom setting then translates over to the device that they have to use. So we flipped that upside down and we said, if the goal here is to get them comfortable on the use of that device and the software on that device and combine all of that with the business process that they have to understand in order to be effective in their role, why don't we deliver the content right to that device? And so that's exactly what Skyllful does. We deliver scenario-based simulations to the device that we're looking for the user to acclimate to. And the best thing about this is that at the end of these exercises, we can now validate that the user has developed the competency that they need. We can assure a certain level of readiness so that we're not sending a frontline worker out into the field, out into the wild where they do their work, not being certain that they're able to use that software in a production environment. And that's one of the big things that's different, Ed, than a lot of us, right? If we're in an office environment, air conditioned cubicles and everything else, if we aren't able to figure something out at our desk, we can reach out to one of our colleagues, drag somebody over from a nearby cubicle, and ask them for help. The frontline workers that are out in the field, that are doing deliveries, that are performing their job function away from an office, they don't have the luxury of just reaching out to somebody nearby and saying, hey, I don't remember how to do this. And so we need to send them out there with the tools and the knowledge that they need to be effective, knowing that they're not going to have access to the same resources when they're out and about.
It's excellent. One of the things I'm thinking as you're talking is this sounds so simple. Like, oh, what do you mean it hasn't been done this way? It's like it seems almost obvious, but it's clear that you guys are filling a really important niche.
I have a reaction to that comment because I experienced this challenge in my work about 10 years ago and knew that it needed to be solved. There were some other priorities going on at the time. And so we didn't get a chance to solve it back in 2009 and 2010. When the problem began to surface again in 2018 and 2019, I said, well, we have to solve this now. If we've gone this expanse of 7, 8, 9 years, and we're in the same market with the same types of companies, with the same types of workers, and we still haven't seen any advances in this, this is clearly a gap in the marketplace. And I think that the traditional, there are hundreds or thousands of learning technology companies around the globe, and they're amazing at what they offer. But they do have a blind spot to this frontline workforce, and that's the area that we're filling in to give them the tools and the technology that they need to be able to learn in a stress-free, independent manner where they can develop the competencies to be successful in their role, but without having to necessarily have people, looking over their shoulder with an expectation of being able to do things at their own pace on their time. And, in this workforce, it's not okay to just take them out of the field for 2 days. We saw what happened in COVID when we did have to shut down deliveries and grocery stores were literally running out of products. Services that are essential for us to live weren't happening. And so it's not okay for companies that employ large frontline workforces to just take their folks out of the field for a couple of days because they have to learn this new application, right? So we needed to deliver a way to be able to do that and minimize the downtime that they have, still allow them to do their job, develop the competencies at the same time. And so you're absolutely right. It seems like something that should have happened sooner, but we're going to feel it better late than never.
And Justin, we have an exit question that we ask all of our guests, and that is,
Okay.
who is a hero of yours and why are they a hero?
I would say my hero is really more of a composite character made up of people like Nikola Tesla, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. To me, the thing that really gets me excited and motivated by them and their history and the present in some of the cases is their inability to see limits on what's possible. And I've noticed that in myself when I look at some of the things that those gentlemen have accomplished, and I think about how, had I been faced with those challenges, I would have talked myself out of it. And so they are my heroes because they have solved problems that most of us would have said are unsolvable or aren't worth solving. And it's encouraged me to try to pull the limits off of my thinking a little bit, to say when there are problems like the one that we've been talking about today, you know what? There's no better person on the planet right now than us, than this group of people here to solve this challenge. Why not? And that's what I love about those guys and people like them.
And lastly, Justin, how can somebody contact you?
From a business standpoint, connect personally on LinkedIn. I'm Justin Lake on LinkedIn. And to learn more about Skyllful, head over to skyllful.com. That's SKYLLFUL.com. And either way, those are great places to find us.
All right. Justin Lake, co-founder and chief executive officer of Skyllful. Thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Advice podcast.
Thanks again for having me, Ed.
For more Sage Advice, visit and subscribe at sageadvicepodcast.com.